Hello, Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today some Lawn Fawns, Pumpkin, and Gourd lawn cuts with 3 die cut cards from start to finish. I'm using Doodle Bug Designs Farmer's Market 6x6 paper pack for my color inspiration, and I will use that as my pattern paper throughout for all 3 of them. Sometimes I like to create multiples, but not the same. And so this is kind of my process, especially when using die cut shapes and individually coloring all of them. I have super sped this up for you because it took me a long time. It's not a quick process. It tends to take time. So if you feel like you're slow at it, I feel the same way. So for my greens, I used Mowed Lawn and Twisted Citron. For my gourds, I brought in both tea dye and for like my neutral color ones, kind of like the butternut squash. So I used tea dye and scattered straw for that one. I did use the Lumberjack plaid and that scattered straw for my corn. I kind of wanted that Indian popcorn. I think it's called Indian corn, or that's what we used to call it. Grandma used to call it was Indian corn. That multicolored, deep reds and purple popcorn. And then for my pumpkins, I used both carved pumpkin and then crackling campfire. And then for my purple gourds here, I ended up bringing in seedless preserves. Now, I mixed some of my distress oxides while I was blending right on my glass mat, and it's okay. It just gives it a different hue, a different color. All of my colors kind of went well, so I had a little bit of brown come in with my purples there, and just kind of added a little bit more depth and dimension. So I will put all of those pieces together, and then of course I threw them in my splat box to splatter them all at the same time. Well, I tried. I did end up die cutting out more pieces as I went and colored them just the same. I don't know if I actually splattered all of the additional ones that I did for this one. I ended up making more than I thought, or just ended up using more than I had originally planned. So for my pieces here, I did die cut these out of some already Woodgrain cardstock, and then just adding in some distress ink and walnut stain to color them. And then I brought in the gunmetal. I think it's called gunmetal silver. I don't remember. Or pewter. Is it pewter from Nuvo crystals? And the idea was to kind of like push it up in behind those holes for like the, I guess, tacks that would hold it together. It really didn't squish where I wanted it to squish. I probably should have squished it through the hole before I tried laying it onto that base piece. I'll know for next time. And then I did cut silver for my accents on my Build a Bushel basket die cut as well. So I had picked out kind of my papers. I had gone with some of the more neutrally or not quite as loud ones for some of these, and then I decided to change my mind on them. A lot of these are going to have die cut sentiments, and I was playing. I was having fun, and sometimes we need to take a step back and just kind of play and not always, I don't know, overthink things. I overthink things a lot. These ones were just fun because they were die cut, hand colored. They were fun to throw together. And I didn't struggle with these like I do arrangements with flowers. Yeah, don't ask. I guess, vegetables are easier to arrange for me than flowers. I did cut the Oh My Gourd from some black and white cardstock, layered it to give it that shadow effect. This is with Oliver's Stitched ABCs. And yes, I was totally going for all the punnies on these I could find. I have another one that I want to do, and yes, I drop things all the time. You will see me throughout drop stuff. I don't know. I drop-itis. It hits me hard. So just kind of arranging them. I wanted it to kind of split up my color. So I know that purple was kind of loud and there, and I loved it. But I also wanted to kind of, you know, not have too much noise, shall I say, like all front and center. Or maybe I wanted the noise front and center and keep, you know, some of the other, mixing my colors of all the things that I had already die cut out. This is hard when you've spent all that time, you know, coloring them, and then you're going to stick them in the thing and you don't see most of it anyways. Yeah. Like, why did I spend all that time making them pretty and then they just go in a little crate? Well, you know, it is what it is. So once I am semi-happy with placement here, I will add these. I wanted to kind of alter that one stem on the pumpkin there. I just didn't want it to look exactly the same as the one on the gourd that was next to it. Giving my card CPR so it all stays down again. I did bring in the little curly cues there. I think it is from the Pumpkin House the Pumpkin House, Build a Pumpkin House die set for the little squirrely curly cues. It's either from that one or from, I'm pretty sure it was from that one, or the Acorn House. But that's kind of where I pulled those little scrolly, viney bits from, because they are not in with that set, and the leaves as well. And then I was just kind of playing around with backgrounds and seeing which card base was going to work the best. I ended up going with white with this one just because of my white shadow behind my letters. I felt it kind of made them pop a little bit better. And yes, I'm still using my wonky card bases that I got off of Amazon, and of course I tried gluing it down on the wrong side so it wasn't the right side. So peeled it off and put it onto the right one, the right side of those wonky card bases. Yeah. And then on to the next one. So I will start with my super loud pattern paper here. I kind of like this. It was fun. I probably should have added the little smiley faces or winky faces or whatever on top of my gourds. It probably would have gone a little bit better with my pattern paper, or kind of, I don't know, tied into it a little bit more. Now for this one, I wanted to do something else for my sentiment, and so I ended up pulling out, I wanted the "You're the cream of the crop." I had thought about die cutting crop out of die cut letters, and then I ended up not doing it, but I ended up bringing in the Love You a Latte set, or no, Thanks a Latte set. It has the cream to my coffee, so I just ended up doing "You're the cream," and then pulled out some other words and kind of fit together "You're the cream of the crop." And so you'll see how I do that here. I tend to do this a lot, building sentiments that I don't actually have with what I have at hand. I like to pull things, you know, as long as I can find all the letters that I need, I can build a sentiment from scratch without having the individual letter stamp sets, I guess, if that makes sense. And then for crop, it was like of, and I was like, I can just come in with Filiner and make the circle to make it a P. So it works. Nobody will be any of the wiser, right? So I'm putting my bushel basket full of corn there, and then when I splattered this orange pumpkin, it kind of got a funky, I don't know, a funky color on it, or big old blot on it, and I didn't particularly care for it. So I was just going to cover it up. And then I ended up switching out my gourds because I didn't want all of this color, you know, I didn't want it to be one color over the other, and I didn't want all the bright colors on one side and all the dull colors on the other side. So just kind of flipping them around, coming back in with my blending brush to kind of cover up that oopsie there when I pulled it off. No big deal. And then filling this one in with those little vines. Maybe I have an easier time with vegetables because I look at my vegetable garden and it's just a hot mess because it's usually mostly weeds. And, you know, it still grows crops, so it's all good. Grandma Hemish always told me, because when the boys were little and I tried gardening, and they would laugh at me, like, "Where'd you find that pumpkin, Mom?" I'm like, "Up in my garden." They're like, you mean that weed patch up there? And I was telling my grandma Hamish this the one time when she was in the hospital. And she's like, well, don't you know that's just protection for your crops? Like, you know, it's all good. You're just hiding them from the bugs, so it works. Wisdom from grandma. She always had the cleanest garden, so it was funny that she told me it was alright to have a weedy garden. Anyway, so I'm going to end up shortening up my sentiment here. I just decided I liked it more centered as opposed to hanging off the side. And then, of course, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of purple ink blending on the outside so it wasn't such a stark white. And then added that to the top of my, or underneath my scene, or I don't know if it's a scene, my array of gourds and corn. And then I'm going to add some Nuvo crystal. These aren't crystal. These are the glitter drops, sorry. I think they're called Limoncello or Yellowbird. I don't know. It's one or the other. It actually picks up the Distress Oxide ink, so it ended up changing color, so then those glitter drops kind of go with each vegetable that they were on. They pick up that color. So for my last one, I'm trying to use up the scraps that I've already cut on my desk, and I decided it needed something else. So just, you know, building from the base up. These are kind of reminiscent of old Jaime style, not so much new Jaime style. It's, you know, we evolve, I think, in our creation and making, and sometimes visiting old habits is kind of fun. I ended up with the brown. It just kind of, you know, screamed flooring base to me. And then I did end up cutting off the one little side. It helped that it was a border and it was a straight line, so it was easy for me to just snip it. And this way I have that orange plaid all the way throughout the card. It kind of gives a little bit more cohesion, even with all of that pattern paper loudness. Yeah. So I'm just going to add on those final 3 gourds that I have left. I'm going to pop up the last flat little pumpkin here with some Fun Foam adhesive, double-sided adhesive sheet, and kind of fill in the room around it with my leftover leaves and viney parts. I love how the green on these ones just kind of pop off of the card front. They just kind of, I don't know, they're just so bright compared to the rest of it. I don't know. I mean, the orange is bright, but the green just is, I think it's that contrast that looks really good. And then for this one, I had decided to go with a punny sentiment again. I really want to do one with the butternut squash. I have the best saying ever. It's just going to take a lot of work to get it spelled out on the card. I might end up printing it and doing it that way. So for this one, I brought in the old Tim Holtz. I don't even know what this one's called anymore. It's the, like, Halloween words, like that Wicked that you will see, and the Eat. It's not a full alphabet set. I think he might actually have an alphabet set that's this size and or style, but I use this one all the time to build words with. It tends to have most everything that you need for most words, and so it just works. And I like a good challenge. So I die cut that from some hand-colored cardstock. I use some purple and some orange, which is a very odd combination. So if you play craft roulette, team purple and orange, see, you can go together beautifully. That's all I'm going to say. So I have it all spelled out here. I know it is spelled punny. That's what I was going for. So I'm taking in my highlighter tape here to just kind of move this around. Once I had it lined up, it works well. Once I decide that I'm going to put it on the top, just kidding. Once I decide I'm going to put it on the bottom, I will flip this over and add glue to all of the backing of the letters here. It goes pretty quick once it's all on there, and I wasn't too worried about it being straight. it, you know, didn't have to be in a perfect row for this one. And then once you commit, just pressing it all down. And then I usually like to let it dry on that adhesive, on the highlighter tape. You can use washi tape as well. And then it just peels right back and it works out fine. So I ended up coming in and doing some more ink blending on a piece of paper because I decided it needed to say hello up on top. I needed something up on top. So I'm coming in with that Crackling Campfire Color Pumpkin. I ended up using the Seedless Preserves, and my blending foam there had Villainous Potion on it because I needed a little bit of a different tone on my purple. And so I will cut the hello from, I think this one is Lawn Fawn. The Lawn Fawn hello, Scripty hello, I do believe. And then I will add that on top of my gourds on top. And then I decided it kind of, like the orange just blended in. Like my whole Hello Gorgeous kind of just blended in. And so I tried some glitter adhesive, like glitter glue, and it just wasn't what I wanted. So I did bring in some Glossy Accents. I over Glossy accented this. I probably wouldn't have needed to be as heavy-handed as I was while I was doing this. And I kind of, because they're really small letters. And so once I had all of my Glossy Accents on there, I am going to come in with some fine glitter. So I couldn't find my Prisma glitter, so I ended up just using some embossing holographic glitter. I didn't heat set it. I'm using it for glitter purposes. It works. So I'm going to sprinkle that on, and then I'm going to come up with my chunky glitter and sprinkle that on, and then I'm going to walk away. I walked away. You see all that glitter? Yeah. So I'm going to tap that into the garbage can and then futz with it a little bit. I will bring in just a regular dry paintbrush and kind of brush off any of the over glitter here that's stuck to my background. I will come in with that brush a few times, and then I will hand pick off some of those pieces that maybe got stuck that weren't supposed to be in those stuck spots. But this way it has a fine holographic glitter on there and some big old chunky glitter on top. And I absolutely love the sentiment on this one. It just, I don't know, it looks wet and glittery and gorgeous. So that finishes up my 3 cards in my Oh My Gourd. Look at all those gourds. Anyways, I hope you have an amazing day, and please don't unfollow me because I'm bored and having a fun time. Have an amazing day. Bye!